Top stories for today, July 6, 2020. The Labor Department is seeking an additional 2.5 billion pesos to finance its assistance program for overseas Filipino workers. Malacanang says it will abide by the Supreme Court ruling on the petition challenging the anti-terror law. The National Telecommunications Commission, or NTC, supports DepEd's TV and radio-based learning delivery this coming school year. And the PNP condemns the killing of a former rebel by the New People's Army in Surigao del Sur. Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. As COVID-19 cases continue to soar in the Philippines with more people being displaced by the raging disease, the government continuously provides financial aid to Filipino overseas workers who were displaced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Around 250,000 OFWs are expected to benefit from the assistance. DOLE has already given 2.5 billion pesos in two tranches to finance the Abot Kamay ang Pagtulong. It is a one-time emergency cash aid of $200 or 10,000 pesos. As of July 4, DOLE has given the cash aid to almost 190,000 OFWs and about 56,283 have yet to receive their assistance. The Department of Foreign Affairs has already facilitated the return of more than 68,000 overseas Filipinos since the beginning of the COVID-19 repatriation efforts. Of this number, 51% or more than 35,000 are sea-based. The recent arrivals came from Barbados, Maldives, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and the USA. The DFA, together with its embassies and consulates around the world, remains fully committed to bringing home Filipino nationals stranded abroad amid the COVID-19 pandemic. 5 more COVID-19 testing centers are accredited by the Health Department. Total number of accredited testing centers is now 75. This means more results will be coming in the following weeks. Of the 75 accredited centers, 55 are polymerase chain reaction or PCR facilities and 20 Gen Expert laboratories. The latest certified PCR laboratories are located at the Fe del Mundo Medical Center, Health Delivery Systems, San Pablo District Hospital, and the UPLB COVID-19 Molecular Laboratory. The latest Gene Expert facility to be accredited is in Amaypakpak Medical Center. The licensed laboratories have tested 738,502 individuals as of July 3, yielding a positivity rate of 7.3%. This is higher than the 5% target prescribed by the World Health Organization. Meanwhile, 173 other laboratories are undergoing the 5-step accreditation process. 149 of them are already on stage 3 or further in the process. 31 countries have already lifted the inbound border restrictions on Filipino travelers. This includes the Bahamas, Egypt, Ethiopia, and UAE. On the other hand, 68 countries still do not allow entry in their borders. These are Cuba, Haiti, Palau, Timor-Leste, France, and most countries in Middle East and Africa, among others. About 78 countries, despite inbound border closures, give entry exemptions to Filipinos who are citizens of the destination country and returning residents, OFWs with work visas and contracts, diplomatic or UN passport holders going to post or on official travel. The DFA also confirms 138 countries are now allowing Filipinos to return to the Philippines subject to flight availability and other special arrangements. Meanwhile, the DFA reiterates that travel restrictions can change without prior public notice. This after the Manila International Airport Authority, or MIA, announced the resumption of international flight operations in NAIA Terminal 3 beginning 12:01 a.m. of July 8. The DFA advised all travelers to always check ahead of travel dates with the airlines before departure or before booking your ticket. A total of 204 Filipino tourists, students, and overseas Filipino workers in Japan were repatriated via a chartered flight on Saturday. They departed from Narita International Airport on board the third repatriation flight organized by the Philippine Embassy in Tokyo. Meanwhile, some 2,000 stranded individuals or residents in Metro Manila bound for Mindanao have arrived at the Matnog port in Sorsogon on board 80 passenger buses. They were transported via the roll-on, roll-off or ro-ro vessels to Ale, Northern Samar, and then proceed by bus to Lipata port in Antique and off to their port of destinations. The sending home of thousands of Mindanao LSIs is under the Hatid Tulong program. In Butuan City, the Regional Task Force on COVID-19 One Caraga Shield pushes for a mandatory COVID-19 test among LSIs before they are allowed to return home. The 141 LSIs who were supposed to return on June 27 were temporarily halted through a request by the Regional Task Force citing the increasing COVID-19 cases in the region. Of the 141 LSIs, 14 are from Agusan del Norte, 61 in Agusan del Sur, 27 in Surigao del Norte, 8 in the province of the Nagat Islands, 14 in Surigao del Sur, and 17 in Butuan City. The province of Agusan del Norte and Butuan City are currently classified under MGCQ with strict local action, while the rest of the provinces in Caraga are now under MGCQ. Locally stranded individuals and government executives appeal for understanding amid resistance and negative comments hurled against the government's Hatid Tulong program. Presidential Management Staff Assistant Secretary Joseph Encabo has appealed for understanding on behalf of people seeking to go home to their provinces. He said these Filipinos do not have any intention to be carriers of COVID-19 and they need to be with their families. He stressed that it is the duty of the government to take care of its people, and in turn, what is important is to have discipline and how to protect ourselves and our families. Encabo said they were able to send home around 3,100 LSIs last Sunday, July 5. Several LSIs, meanwhile, expressed gratitude to the government for the Hatid Tulong program, saying a lot of stranded individuals or Filipinos were raring to go home since the imposition of community quarantines. They also vowed to follow quarantine and safety protocols for the sake of their own families. Malacanang says it will abide by the Supreme Court ruling on the petition challenging the newly signed Antiterrorism Act of 2020. Meanwhile, members of the Antiterrorism Council are set to meet to review the newly signed anti-terrorism law and craft its implementing rules and regulations. More on this from William Theo.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the palace will leave it to the Supreme Court to decide on the petitions filed by a group of lawyers which seeks to prohibit the anti-terrorism law from being enforced. Roque earlier said the anti-terrorism law is at par with the anti-terrorism legislation of the developed countries. He explained that other countries such as the United States and the United Kingdom had more draconian laws compared to the Philippines. Meanwhile, members of the Anti-Terrorism Council are set to meet to review the newly signed anti-terrorism law to ensure they have a common understanding of the Republic Act 11479 and craft its implementing rules and regulations. Once crafted, the IRR will be submitted to Congress, whose members will make up a joint oversight committee.
Itong batas na ito ay talagang kailangan ng bansa. It's a matter of necessity. Huwag natin kakalimutan yung mga nakaraan ng mga pangyayari na gawa ng terorista, mga terorista. Huwag natin kalilimutan ng mga to. Ito na ngayon ang pag-asa natin. Ito ang ating gagamitin against terrorism. So ano ay kinakatakot nila? Itong ating law-abiding citizen ay walang dapat ikatakot dahil itong anti-terrorism law ay para sa kapakanan at para sa seguridad ng mga law-abiding citizens.
For his part, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo hailed the political will of President Duterte in signing the anti-terrorism law despite pressure from external forces. Panelo said the president decided to sign the controversial bill into law to preserve national security and promote the general welfare of the Filipinos. He defended the measure, saying it will provide the government the legal weapon to ensnare the terrorists at their trail even before they can launch launch their ruthless and savage attacks. He said the anti-terrorism law contains safeguards against violations of political and civil rights as guaranteed by the Constitution and as promoted by public international law. For Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, the public must give the much-needed anti-terrorism law, saying this will contain and eradicate terrorists who don't play by any rules and who hide behind our laws to pursue their evil deeds. Lorenzana also urged the public to read and understand the law. He also ensures that they will strictly implement it according to its intent and spirit. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
Pabor din naman ako doon kasi para naman din sa Pilipinas yun, para naman din sa mga tao yun. Para sa akin kung pagsugpo para sa mga terorismo talaga yung batas, mas maganda po.
Kasi marami na rin sa nangyayari ngayon na hindi natin alam Masiguro mo mas maganda para mas matakot yung tao na alam na mayroong ganun.
Kung sa naman, pabor naman ako, kaya lang siguro may mga ibang provision siguro na pwedeng kasi baka ma-abuse naman. Pero kung sa pabor din.
Para sa amin mga senior, pabor naman wala na kami ginagawa Ewan ko lang sa mga iba, baka hindi naman sila pabor kasi meron nga sinasabi na batas na hindi naaayon sa ligang batas.
Ang iba ang magko-comment lang dyan, yung mga makakakaliwa. Sila lang ang maaaring mag-ano dyan. Pero sa akin, kung matatahimik ang bansa natin, pabor ako dyan.
Pabor ako talaga na malaod yan. Kasi ang kuha natin, NPA, hindi ba ang ibig sabihin dyan, NPA, di ba? Makuha na yan, wala na yan sila. Kasi may batasan tayo dyan ba?
So to come, the NTC supports DepEd's TV and radio-based learning delivery this coming school year. A cop from Quezon City becomes TawiTawi's first COVID-19 case. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Kakagaling ko lang ng grocery. Siyempre, hindi ko hahayaan na pumasok ang COVID-19 sa bahay at mapahamak ang pamilya ko. Kaya iwan ko ang sapatos ko sa labas. At ngayon, maghuhugas ako ng kamay ng 20 seconds. O ayan, wala na ang virus. Tandaan, buhay ng pamilya natin na nakasalalay. Let's heal as one.
Alam niyo ba na pumapasok ang COVID-19 sa ating katawan sa pamamagitan ng mata, ilong at bibig? Kaya lagi kaming conscious dito sa bahay kapag umuubo kami. Lagi kami naghuhugas ng kamay in 20 seconds. Pag lumalabas kami, lagi namin suot ang mask. Lagi lang natin tatandaan mga mamshi. Buhay ng pamilya natin ang nakasalalay dito. Let's heal as one.
You're still watching PNA Newsroom. The Education Department secured an ally in the National Telecommunications Commission, or NTC, to support television and radio-based learning delivery for the upcoming school year. DepEd, through the NTC, has requested TV, radio, and cable operators to broadcast educational materials and instructions as part of the department's Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. The DepEd is also set to implement a blended learning approach, as face-to-face classes are still prohibited, with TV and radio-based instruction being one of the three main setups, with modular and online learning as the other two options. The NTC has issued a memorandum to remind TV and radio operators of its public service obligation, including providing free-of-charge assistance in the functions of public information and education. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, will fine AC Energy Corporation for the oil spill incident in Iloilo City over the weekend. The agency issues a notice of violation of Republic Act 9275, or the Clean Water Act. DENR Undersecretary Benny Antiporda said a technical conference is called to immediately address the cleanup operation of the July 4 oil spill. Antiporda said it is the responsibility of AC Energy to conduct the cleanup operation, as they are the owner of the barge that exploded from Power Barge 102. The company is now coordinating with Harbor Star Shipping Services, a third party, for the oil spill cleanup in the affected areas. AC Energy is currently conducting a thorough investigation of the incident. It also promised to support the affected communities. The DFA's Office of Consular Affairs at Asiana City in Parañaque City is still closed for disinfection, but its consular office in Metro Alabang Town Center is now open. The DFA temporarily closed the premises for disinfection and implementation of other preventive measures against COVID-19. The public is advised to wait for further announcements on the reopening of the Asiana branch. TawiTawi province in Mindanao has recorded its first COVID-19 case. The patient is a 44-year-old policeman from San Isidro, Quezon City, assigned in the province. The Interagency Task Force on Emerging and Infectious Diseases said the locally stranded individual arrived in Bongao Port in TawiTawi on June 30. Before arriving in TawiTawi, the patient also reportedly went to Zamboanga City and Basilan. The patient was asymptomatic and is currently isolated. A town in Pangasinan reports its first ever COVID-19 case. Meanwhile, a patient with a respiratory illness becomes North Cotabato's first coronavirus-related fatality. More on this and other news from the provinces from Chris Mundo.
A 29-year-old female resident of Barangay Kakandungan is the first COVID-19 case in Natividad, Pangasinan. Mayor Rosita Rafael said the asymptomatic patient had a travel history to Santa Rosa, Laguna and tested positive on July 4. She is now under isolation with her two children who are under monitoring. The LGU has placed Barangay Kakandungan under lockdown starting 8 p.m. on July 4. In Bataan, 3 overseas Filipino workers were among the 5 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the province. 2 of the OFWs were from Pilar, while 1 was from Balanga City. Also infected were a 70-year-old male from Mariveles and a 30-year-old male also from Pilar. With the 5 new patients, confirmed COVID-19 cases in the province rose to 233. Bataan was placed under modified general community quarantine last Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Department of Health Region 12 on Saturday confirmed the first death of a COVID-19 patient from North Cotabato Province. The patient is an 84-year-old COVID-19 patient who tested positive on June 24 at the Southern Philippines Medical Center in Davao City. The patient, who had a recurring respiratory illness, died on June 30. All persons, including their family and health personnel from a private hospital here with direct contact to the patient, tested negative from the virus. The negative result among those in close contact with the patient removed anxiety among Kidapaweños and was the basis of the provincial interagency task force to declare that there is no local transmission in the city. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Any plan to sell government assets to address funding requirements for programs against COVID-19 remains a plan for Malacanang. Finance Chief Carlos Dominguez III said President Duterte has not discussed this plan. Last Friday, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the president remains firm on selling government assets to purchase COVID-19 vaccines once these become available. This after U.S. pharmaceutical firm Pfizer and its partner, Germany-based biopharmaceutical New Technology, said their ongoing study for a possible COVID-19 vaccine is showing positive results. Last April, Dominguez discounted the need to sell state assets because the government entered the pandemic on a strong fiscal position. He said there are also government borrowings intended to finance the COVID-19 response. To date, the Philippine government has borrowed about $5 billion from external fund sources, more than half of the $8.6 billion programmed foreign borrowing for this year. Up next, the PNP condemns the killing of a former rebel by the New People's Army in Surigao del Sur, and Baguio City prepares to give its markers a facelift in preparation for its 111th Charter Day. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Mga mommies, pagdating sa COVID-19, dapat hindi tayo kampante. Bagamat hindi nakikita ang sakit na ito ay nakamamatay. At hanggang ngayon wala pa rin lunas. Kaya protektahan natin ang ating pamilya. Laging maghugas ng kamay, huwag hahawakan ng mukha, at manatili sa bahay para makaiwas sa sakit na ito. Tandaan, buhay ng pamilya natin ang nakasalalay dito. Let's hear this one.
Hi, Caps! Kamusta?
Well, ito dahil sa COVID-19, medyo stress.
Okay lang yan, Caps. Napagdaanan ko din yan.
Ano kaya pwede natin gawin, no?
Kung nararamdaman mo na gulong-gulo ka na sa mga naririnig mo, sa mga nababasa mo, mag-pause ka muna, saka ka huminga ng malalim.
Buti na lang tumawag ka. Iba talaga pag may nangangamusta.
A strong body starts with a strong mind.
Tama. Let's heal as one.
Suspected members of the New People's Army shot dead a former rebel in Surigao del Sur. Meanwhile, government forces foiled an NPA attack at a government construction site in Sultan Kudarat. More on this from Marita Muan.
Top officials of the Police Regional Office in Caraga Region condemned the Communist New People's Army for the alleged killing of a former rebel in Surigao del Sur. Jojo Sabilino was gunned down by two suspected rebels in his home in Barangay Buenavista, Tandag City on Friday, July 3. PRO 13 Director Brigadier General Joselito Esquivel Jr. condemned the NPA for killing their former comrade who returned to the fold of the law and chose to live peacefully. He also described the incident as a demonic act that manifested clear evidence of the NPA's disrespect to the people's right to life. Meanwhile, government forces in a remote village in Calamansig, Sultan Kudarat foiled an attempt by communist rebels to burn heavy construction equipment on Friday. 30 guerrillas threatened to burn the equipment of the Janmer Construction Company at a government road concreting project in Upland, Barangay Hinalaan. Soldiers engaged the rebels in a firefight which left one trooper slightly injured and an unknown number of wounded from the NPA side. The military said the firm ignored the NPA's demand for protection money. In Antique, 2 military vehicles were ambushed by suspected members of the CPP-NPA in Barangay Igbukagay, Hamtik Town early Friday. Troopers of the Army 61st Infantry Battalion were on their way to Barangay Tiola, San Joaquin to assist in the government quarantine control point when an anti-personnel mine exploded far from the border of Antique and Iloilo. The windshield of the vehicle was also shot. The Army said the ambush could also be a move on the part of the NPA to instill fear among the people. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
In our 4 news, India on Sunday saw its biggest surge in COVID-19 cases with 24,850 new cases and 613 deaths in the last 24 hours. The country's tally of infections exceeded 673,000 as the death toll zoomed to 19,268. With the new recoveries, the recovery rate in India has risen to 60.77% from Friday's 67%. The worst hit western state of Maharashtra set a new record on Saturday with the biggest jump of 7,074 new cases in a single day for the first time. The Indian Council of Medical Research, meanwhile, confirmed that it is fast-tracking efforts to develop the Covaxin vaccine in collaboration with the Bharat Biotech company. The country's first made in India coronavirus vaccine will be launched no later than August 15, India's Independence Day. Asian countries have expressed interest in Russian-produced drugs and vaccines against COVID-19. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Igor Morgulov said the Russian consumer rights watchdog actively cooperates with Asian states in bilateral and multilateral formats such as ASEAN. He notes how Asian partners have expressed a great deal of interest in the Russian experience of countering the pandemic, first and foremost in the developments related to the production of drugs aimed to combat this infection. He said a great deal of interest is expressed in the prospects of producing a vaccine against COVID-19. Morgulov added that Russia continues to aid many Asian states, sending medical equipment, test systems, and means of individual protection. In sports, the Philippine Sports Commission will work with the Philippine Olympic Committee for athletes vying for sports in next year's Tokyo Olympics to resume their training. This after the Interagency Task Force approved on Friday the resumption of practices for professional basketball and football clubs. The joint administrative order put up by the PSC, Games and Amusements Board, and the Department of Health actually goes for all sports. The JAO lists down the guidelines on the conduct of health-enhancing physical activities and sports during the COVID-19 pandemic. Notable athletes still looking to make the Olympic cut include Rio Olympics silver medalist Hidalyn Diaz of weightlifting, Pauline Lopez of taekwondo, Marjoline Didal of skateboarding, and the Gilas Pilipinas men in the inaugural 3x3 basketball event. At least 5 companies have already expressed interest to adopt or make the Food and Nutrition Research Institute's enhanced Nutri Bond. These firms are all located in Luzon and are under negotiation with the FNRI. Director Mario Capanzana added that the e-Nutri Bond of these 5 huge companies would be for their social programs and commercial production. The e-Nutri Bond is an enhanced and more nutritious version of the Nutri Bond in the 1970s. FNRI's e-Nutri Bond has an improved taste and texture while still carrying the requirement of more or less 500 kilocalories plus micronutrients such as vitamin A, iron, and iodine. He said FNRI plans to launch the e-Nutri Bond virtually before the end of July. Baguio City is gearing up for its 111th Charter Day on September 1 by giving facelifts to the city's monuments, busts, and other markers that trace the city's history in the last 100 years. The busts of Liman Cannon at Cannon Road, George Malcolm at the People's Park, Daniel Burnham at the Rose Garden of Burnham Park, as well as markers for World War II heroes will be upgraded as they have been neglected in the past years. During the Filipino-American Friendship Day celebration at the Baguio Cemetery on Saturday, Mayor Benjamin Magalong said improvements must be made as Baguio recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic and regain its position as one of the prime tourist destinations in the country. Take a look at today's biggest stories. The Labor Department is seeking an additional 2.5 billion pesos to finance its assistance program for overseas Filipino workers. Malacanang says it will abide by the Supreme Court ruling on the petition challenging the anti-terror law. The National Telecommunications Commission, or NTC, supports DepEd's TV and radio-based learning delivery this coming school year. And the PNP condemns the killing of a former rebel by the New People's Army in Surigao del Sur. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government, how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's a daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from PNA Newsroom. I am Rob Dulfo. Good day and keep safe.